Welcome to the Eagle Eye Podcast, the #1 show to bring you all things Club America in English. Your hosts for today, Ivan Pineda, Christian Rosendo, and everyone's favorite cowboy, Dylan Jimenez. Let's start the show.
Hey, what is going on, everybody? And welcome back to the Eagle Eye Podcast, episode 115. We have quite the show ahead of you. We're going to be talking about that terrible America loss in the Clásico Joven, what happened in that second half, and we're going to talk that dull and boring game against Pumas. And then, of course, we're going to get you guys ready for the Clásico Nacional this upcoming Thursday. But before I go any further with tonight's show, let me introduce, as always, my co-host, New York's favorite resident, Christian Rosendo, and everyone's favorite cowboy, Dylan Jimenez. Gentlemen, how are we tonight this fine evening?
A little bit. No, I'm still disappointed over what happened over the weekend. But hopefully we get a different result on Thursday. I hope everyone's doing well. And yeah, hopefully everyone is having a good day today.
Definitely happy that we're back at this again. Dylan, how's your Tuesday been?
Oh man, today was a long day. It's been good though.
That's good. That's good to hear. It's been a long week, I think, for a lot of us coming into this one. But let's jump right into it. And let's actually backtrack before we go into the Cruz Azul game. And let's kind of set the stage because one game came before that, and it was the America Pumas. So let's start talking about that game. So America ended up going up against Pumas after coming off a 2-0 win against Toluca. And we were very adamant, very hopeful. When we were talking about that show, that episode in which we were kind of hoping that we were going to see the best side of America yet, Christian, but we didn't really get to see that. What was this game and why was it such a dull one?
Sure. So this game kind of was like a piggyback off of the Luca game. Herrera repeated the same 11, except for Oscar Jimenez. He was in net. Honestly, to answer your question about why the game was so dull and boring is still a little bit. I'm still trying to piece it together in my head. It seemed like we kind of had the right approach in the first minutes, trying to come out with some intensity. But then as the game went on, I guess Pumas kind of figured this out a little bit, and then they started to have a little bit more explosiveness in their game. It wasn't until the injury came to their player, Salcedo, I'm assuming that what his name was. Yeah. He was giving us havoc on that left side. Well, on our right side, their left side. And it wasn't until then where America kind of took control of the game again. And that's a little bit concerning that one player was able to kind of break us apart like that. But it happened again in the Cruz Azul game in the second half. We'll talk about that more later. So for me right now, I think America has a lot of work to do, especially in the midfield and on the wings, as we kind of expected.
No, yeah, definitely. And I think you mentioned the fact that it was very kind of unsettling, the fact that one player was able to pick apart this team, which actually had only one change, like you mentioned, the Oscar Jimenez one in the first half. And you thought to yourself, well, this was the team that kind of washed all over Toluca in the first half. They should have been able to do something similar to Pumas, which we thought was actually coming into this game in a much worse situation because of that 4-1 thrashing to Cruz Azul that they have taken part of. But now that didn't seem to be the case, and we witnessed not just 45, a whole 90 minutes in which America did not look at all good for whatever reason. Nothing really clicked, and I kind of want to talk in regards to maybe was it the tactics, or what did you kind of get away from it, Christian?
Well, for me, like I reiterate again, the midfield, we had no creativity. It was definitely something that we were lacking. For me, players are still being played out of position, and we're not getting their full potential, and that's something we lack considerably. We've seen the first half against Cruz Azul. For me, Cordova was one of the better players until he kind of died down after his goal. In this game against Pumas, we really didn't have someone to take control. We still had Roger Martinez kind of drop back, but even when him dropping back, there was no outlet to his, kind of, I guess, attempt to create something. And for me, that's concerning. We also don't have any wingers. You take the ball to the wing, and it's kind of like we're a little bit clueless. We don't know what to do, or we're just stagnant in our decision making. That Pumas kind of figured out what we were doing, so they kind of just countered us very easily. And they didn't offer much too on their side. So I guess that's why people thought the game was so boring, because everything was so repetitive.
Definitely. Now, Are we making too much of this, or should this just continue to be what it is, Dylan, a preseason game?
No, I think to some extent you wanted the team to continue to show the good promising signs that you saw back in the first game against Toluca. You didn't really get that. Obviously, though, I had a little bit of trouble getting my stream going for the game, so I missed out on a little bit. But I remember you texting me saying that it was off to a bad start for the team. Not necessarily something I wanted to hear, and then I get to the game, and I saw what you meant by having that bad start. I guess to some extent, you want to see this team perform still. You want to see this team taking steps as this preseason tournament progresses. I just felt like this team didn't take us any steps forward. I felt like it took a couple steps back.
Definitely, and I think that following game, whenever we thought we took one step forward, we definitely took 3 steps back, and we'll get to that a little bit later on in the show. But really, I mean, I kind of just want to talk a little bit about the second half because we saw kind of the same rotation from Piojo Herrera from the Toluca game into this Pumas game, bringing on a lot more of a young core. And as bright and promising as they looked in the Toluca game, in this Puma game, I wanted a little bit more from them, and they weren't able to break Pumas down, and they're still yet to grab a goal or even create a chance in which you thought, okay, this is definitely going to make something work. I mean, Viñas was even implemented into this second half team. Christian, what's your thoughts on it?
The second half team is definitely they were struggling to kind of break down Pumas, and I think it's due to the fact that you have players who really haven't played with each other. They're definitely lack of chemistry there, but which is concerning, yes. But for the most part, though, you did have players there who have played with each other on a regular basis. In the under 20s and stuff like that, right? So you would like to see more, I guess. Consistent in their passing and maybe in their and some of the decision making that they were implementing. So definitely it's still definitely a struggle to me as to why they couldn't even string a couple of chances together, a couple of good chances, because they did have chances, but either ended over the net or they just got dispossessed.
No, yeah, definitely. Now, we know that in America, one of the hardest things as a youngster to break through the academy is actually getting minutes under an America belt. And seeing how there isn't no more Copa MX following up this year and how limited kind of this America team is in regards to games and all that stuff, I wonder if this preseason tournament is going to be the minutes that most of these kids ever get. And Dylan, something we talked about since the beginning of this podcast is there's always kind of been this bright young potential talent, whether it's Ivan Moreno, whether it's, X and X other players. Why do you think that they're not able to showcase enough of their talent when they get the opportunity?
Well, I think the problem just runs deeper than just looking at this this question you're bringing up to me too. I feel like it's something maybe you see a lot throughout the league as well. You want to see these youngsters get the minutes that they deserve. I think Ortega's a pretty good idea of not getting what he deserved necessarily to whenever in terms of you look at the Clausura. People want Aguilera benched. Some people wanted Ortega to come in and step up because we saw the potential in him. We felt like he was a little bit better than Aguilera at the time. But now we will never know because obviously he's with Toluca. But at the same time, I feel like you look at the season, you play everybody once, every point's going to matter. And if these youngsters are really going to show up necessarily every game of the preseason that they get a chance, then I just feel like Piojo's looking at it like, why am I going to give them minutes whenever the season really starts?
Yeah, definitely. But I mean, I guess the only positive thing to the youngsters is knowing how injury prone some of these starters are. So who knows? Maybe they will get some minutes. But that pretty much wraps up the Pumas versus America. Not much really to take away from this game as well because it is a draw. I mean, America looked semi-decent at some points of the match, but really there was no consistency in how America played. And that should have actually been the biggest concern going into this Cruz Azul game. But I think we all had this tendency to write it off and say, it's just a preseason game. We'll be fine. More minutes, the more traction we're going to get. And it looked like that was going to be the case, but we'll get to that right now. But, I mean, really, anything else to add on about this Pumas America?
No, I think we hit the points.
Interest. Okay. Yeah. I mean, I agree. So now let's jump into what happened not that long ago. America versus Cruz Azul. Let's talk that game. Let's recap it. What went right in the first half and what went wrong in the second half. So let's get started here. So America came into this game hoping to kind of cement themselves a little bit more in this preseason tournament. Cruz Azul was coming on to this one in a hot run. It looked like they actually picked off exactly where they left off in the league. So this was kind of a good test for America, knowing that they were going up against probably the best team in this tournament. It just kind of didn't go to the way any of us planned. I mean, things started off well with that Cordoba golazo, but really after that, America died off a little bit, and because of an own goal, it put Cruz Azul back on the drawing board, and everything just went downhill afterwards. I mean, we'll talk about the second half in a little bit, but Christian, talk to me about the first half and that illusion that America gave us for the first opening 45 minutes.
Yeah, so like you said, I think America started this game a little bit better than what they did against Pumas, which to me at first was a good sign because, well, like you said, Cruz Azul is one of the better teams in the tournament, if not the best team in this tournament. So to see us get off to a little bit of a good start and a better start than what we did at previous game, was always a good. It's always a good sign. Maybe you have little players clicking. Maybe they had a bad day the other day. So whatever. You see some of these players be a little bit more, I guess, all over the place when it comes to the offensive side. And, I guess that's what led to the first goal. Instead of Cordoba being so stuck on the wing, we saw him kind of a little free roam a little bit in the middle. And then that's what you saw in the goal, in our goal. Cordoba makes a great play in dispossessing the Cruz Azul player. And he takes a beautiful shot. And, nothing for the goalkeeper to do. We're up 1-0. We're feeling good. We're playing a little bit better. And then, everything points to be a good half. Unfortunately, the own goal happens, and then, we kind of get a little bit, I guess, flustered after that. And literally after that goal, America never recovered after Cruz Azul goal.
Yeah, America was never the same. And let's talk about that own goal. But I want to backstep just a little bit. Dylan, as a goalkeeper yourself, like me, how annoyed are you, or how annoyed did you feel knowing that Cruz Azul scored that goal? There wasn't really Cruz Azul scored it, but having conceded a goal after that amazing Ochoa save.
Remind me again, who was it? I forgot who accidentally scored that own goal.
Viñas,
yeah. It's just something that you don't want to see. This is obviously you don't want that to happen to you because then you get down too, then you lose your confidence throughout the game a little bit too. It's just pretty annoying. That the fact that you couldn't get a simple clearance from a header out there. I mean, you look at it, and I don't think Ochoa was able to come off the line. One thing that you kind of criticize him on Ivan is him coming off the line. Him being hesitant sometimes. But I think at the end of the day, you just got to look past it. I mean, it's one thing that everybody always says, let's look past it. But obviously, it never really seemed like America looked past it after that happened.
Yeah, it never really looked like that was actually the case. But I mean, I think Dylan put the word perfectly in context, annoying, because I think that's the kind of sense that we got all watching it, and I think that was a sense that the players got as well. They were very annoyed at that point because they knew that they went down by their own merits, not by Cruz Azul's, because I think at that point, America had Cruz Azul in check. They were moving the ball around more. They were getting Cruz Azul a little bit more tired. They were actually playing exactly what we all hoped that they would have started playing. I think all of us were pretty surprised. And then that own goal comes in, and then I think mistakes or tendencies from last season tend to sit in, and again, it's that same feeling that America isn't able to see out the game and America isn't able to manage a lead. Christian, going into the second half, were you hopeful that America was going to continue kind of the good play that we were seeing, or did you have a sense that maybe this is about to go downhill?
Well, after looking at the substitutes that were made in the start of the second half, you kind of saw, a little bit how this game was going to go. You take out Richard Sanchez, and you see that midfield completely disintegrate. I mean, Cruz Azul just had a field day in the opening, I guess, 20 minutes of the second half, and that's ultimately where they scored their next 3 goals. And you're thinking to yourself, and you're like, wow, like what happened in that dressing room? from the time that players went to that dressing room, 20 minutes until now. Like what happened in that time span, and a lot of misplay, miscoordination, a part of our team. They're not we connect and nothing going. We can't even string a couple passes together. Everything was going downhill. I guess after the second goal, players just like in a sense just like kind of chalked the game. They were just like, you know what, whatever, it's whatever, and then they just kind of went about their business. It's still it's disheartening to see because players like Escobosa and Leo Suarez, those are the players that need to step it up. And for the most part, they were just shut out again in the second half. Yes, I know due to the scoreline, but it's still a preseason game. You still go out there and play like a 0-0 throughout the whole match, and you play to show your worth. And most of these players didn't. And I guess that's the most disappointing part as well. That players who need to step up, who need to make an impact, are just not are not doing it. They're not showing up.
No, yeah, definitely. I think the best way to kind of summarize this, to kind of put this into context, is it was a very Sunday League-esque type of crumpling down, right?
Of course, yeah.
So, because I think you get an early goal by Cruz Azul, and then I think you see heads go down, which is the last thing you want to see on a pitch, especially in a preseason game. Like you mentioned, Christian, you're in tryout mode in a sense. Nothing's guaranteed at that point. While some may argue differently that some players already have their spots set, but I think, especially if you're one of those players that got substituted in, I think you would have wanted to hustle and move 110% and do anything and everything for your team to kind of showcase yourself and say, look, I am a potential for a starter. And that wasn't really the case for any of the players, honestly. I mean, you saw Roger go back to his old tendencies. He, got frustrated, was a little bit of a ball hog, and never really was sprinting when he needed to, right? He lost the ball and he kind of just let it go. Escobosa, again, I mean, he had some fight to him, but I think a little bit of trying to be off, trying to showboat a bit kind of cost us a goal when he could have cleared the ball a lot better. I think he was trying to maybe flick it over someone, and that cost us a goal. I mean, it was terrible all around, and there's really no one player that you can actually say they had a good game. And I think that's the most worrisome part about this is now we've gone through the first 3 games, and America miraculously makes it into the knockout stages due to some results going our way, but you're not confident in this team any more so than you were at the start of the season.
Yeah, no, and I guess that's the worst thing to get out of a preseason. I think after a preseason tournament, you should, while not expecting the best results, you can still expect something. Okay, you know what? Okay, this game didn't go our way, but at least, we have a plan. At least we kind of have an idea of where this team could be if said players were on the pitch. And things just didn't go our way either. You look to improve upon. But honestly, with the way we've been playing across these 3 games, it doesn't look good for us now. That completely change on Thursday. I mean, definitely, we could have some flipping the switch, and then we could become the best team in the world again, in the league again.
No, you're right, the world.
Yeah, well, okay, well, we'll go with the world. That's fine. So that can happen, of course, but as these previous games have shown us, it's not very hopeful, and it sucks because we think high of our team. We expect the best from our team, but when they're giving up performances like that, and when they're not kind of showing off on the pitch, especially in the Clásico like that, that's just downright embarrassing, right? I don't care if it's a preseason game or not. You shouldn't really be losing 4-1 to your rivals like that. So hopefully this team can flip a switch on Thursday because we really need to.
Definitely. Dylan, in your best Cowboy way, can you describe America's second half?
I just don't think you described it. I mean, I feel like we've kind of just picked up from where we kind of piggyback off Christian, excuse me. I just feel like we kind of picked up where we left off in the Clausura, and maybe, a little bit, in the Apertura too. I mean, we've always talked about this team inconsistency, and I mean, that word consistency lives on this podcast a lot, Ivan, and you know that.
It does. It lives here rent free.
and so you just don't see that yet still, and especially whenever we talked about the team heading into the Toluca game against into the Toluca game, and what Piojo has stated, he's rejuvenated his thinking, he's rejuvenated the team and the way they're going to play. I mean, I still feel like we haven't seen that overall, and it's frustrating. It's preseason. I get it. People are still going to that. So people are still going to say, once the team gets more minutes, then we can see more. But you still want your team to go out there, especially after the not necessarily, I wouldn't say a great game. I mean, it was a decent game against Luka, but then you regress each game. I mean, it's a little worrying to you a little bit, and you got to wonder, what the hell's going on to some extent. As you head into knockout rounds now, you're getting closer to the season starting now, and so you're just kind of wondering, like, are we gonna see this again come match day one? I mean, are we gonna see this? Are we gonna see this inconsistency again in the Apertura? I mean, I just feel like those questions are going to be unanswered until we actually get to that point.
No, yeah, definitely, and I think you mentioned it, right? Inconsistency and having to again go back to the drawing board. And it seems like this is a constant thing for this America side. And you think by this point, we'd have something better. But you're right, Dylan. We keep regressing. We go from good to bad to now worse, and hopefully it doesn't get worse, because worse is not even a word. And I'm just hopeful that America can pick it up. But like you mentioned, Christian, we can flip the switch on Thursday, and then we could be completely at a different subject come next Tuesday. And what we're talking that maybe America advanced to the final and won the Copa MX. Like, that's how fast it quickly this kind of pace is going right now in America.
Of course.
But I think we need to be realistic, even if America gets to the stage and even if they get to lift the trophy. I think we still have to come back to these games and think, okay, what went wrong and what can we learn from this to make sure that America doesn't make these same mistakes and actually outgrows from all of these kind of bad tendencies that they tend to, have or have been having for the past year or so. So I think that is the key thing we got to take away from this. Again, it is just preseason, and whilst we're America, and America is always going to have this kind of constant pressure that no matter what game you play, no matter if it's a preseason game or not, you're kind of entitled to win every single game. And yeah, that's a lot of pressure, but you are the institution that you are. So you kind of have to, hold to your own standards. And now the question begs, is America going to flip the switch like Christian mentioned? We'll have to wait and see, but we'll talk about that, and we'll talk about exactly what America needs to do in order to flip that switch. But we'll get into that in just a little bit. But anything else you guys want to talk about this America Cruz Azul game that really stood out to you? Any player? I mean, I want to say that I haven't really seen much of Viñas, and I am worried because we're putting a lot of faith in this kid. And yes, I granted he's had 2 games, 45 minutes, and each game, and can't really take too much off of that. I know, but I don't want him to be a one season wonder. You want him to be a consistent player. Do you feel like he can be that, Christian? Because I will go out on a line here and say that if Viñas is the player who we think he is, he can, without doubt, be the top goal scorer for this upcoming season for America and even for the league.
No, I think he can. I think that whilst he had a great season in his first one, I still think right now he needs a little bit more of the minutes. So that's why I think I'm hoping he gets to start on Thursday, whether it be alongside Roger, whether it be alongside Henry. I just hope he gets to start. Right now, I don't think we'll see anyone play a full 90. So I guess to answer your question, I think we're gonna have to wait till the season actually starts, because I think that's when Piojo will finally, I guess, give players 90 minutes to really show their worth. And then you come back to me in about week 3, and then I'll give you a little bit more of an insight on Venus. But for right now, I think he still needs a little bit more time. But definitely though, I think with giving the minutes, giving the right play style, giving the right I guess consistent chemistry and performance, I think he could definitely be the top goal scorer in this league for sure.
Definitely. And one bright thing that we actually take away from this Cruz Azul game, which probably is the only first 45 minutes, is also the very good start the youngster Nevada had.
Oh, yeah.
Naveda.
Of course.
I don't understand which one it is. But, yeah, he had such a good first half, making cut-through passes, just splitting that Cruz Azul line and really putting him, a daggering ball exactly where they needed to be. The question is now, does he get more minutes, or do we see a more kind of experienced midfield coming into this America Chivas game?
No, like honestly, he blew my mind a little bit. I did not think that a guy was gonna like a kid like that was gonna make the impact like he did that game. Granted it was only 45 minutes or 40 or 50 or whatever he played. 'Cause I know he got subbed off on the second half, like early in the second half, right? But the performances that he was giving out on the pitch in that limited time, I think caught my eye. It caught a lot of people's eye. We have comments like Chicken Little saying that he's already better than Austin Cáceres. While that is a bold statement, the kid was the kid was playing, and I think that's what you want in a kid like that, fearless. Don't let the pressure get to you. You go out there and play your game. Definitely playing his game on against Cruz Azul. So hopefully we get to see more of him. But I think on Thursday, I think we'll go with a little bit more experience. We're still yet to see Cáceres play. For what it's worth. So I think Cáceres would be an interesting choice for Thursday as well.
Yeah, definitely. And like Chris said, he was playing with a confidence in the midfield that
Of course,
just kind of
that's what you want in the young kid for sure.
exactly. It's exactly what you want. But then again, he kind of died out in the sense the same way that he saw the team kind of fall off. And I think a little bit of how much responsibility he took on that second goal kind of fell on his shoulders.
Mm-hmm. No, for sure.
So, but again, the kid has a bright future if he continue to kind of prove himself. I think he's one of the kind of players that actually, you can see he has a future in this America side if he can continue to do the work. I think he'd be a great player to come off the bench.
No, of course, yeah, and obviously he's going to be battling with also for that spot, because I think if you're Herrera and if Cáceres is healthy, I think you kind of have your midfield duo in Cáceres and Richard Sanchez. So I guess a good player off the bench to kind of relieve some of the stress off of either or is definitely needed. Can you be the player? Of course, you just need you need to keep doing you and keep putting in the effort and demonstrate to Piojo why you deserve to play for the first team. Now I think a little thing we need to discuss is I saw in the comments, I don't know who made it, but on the left side, we don't have a left side winger yet. You can put Cordova there all you want. You can put Gio there all you want. Neither or is for me is a true winger in a sense. So you're still missing that, and it raises the good question, like who will be on the left. You still have Ibargüen, who we still haven't really mentioned a lot because he's been out with a little injury, so we haven't got MC to play. But when he comes back, who can rival him on that left side? I don't think Roger wants to go back there this season. I think he really wants to cement himself as that kind of pair to the striker. So who else, Buddy Ibargüen, can play that left side?
Yeah, that's the most interesting thing about it, and I think we'll talk about it more on next week's podcast when we start kind of previewing the season as a whole and the squad and how much depth we actually have in each position. But that is, I think, the most worrisome signs, and I think it's exactly why I had been flagging that wing position every transfer window, is because we knew eventually this day would come. And now it's here. And how does America approach it? Well, I mean, we'll have to wait and see, but they need to bring in a winger. That is for sure. They need to bring in a winger. And I think we'd be pretty much set. I mean, you can bring in two wingers, a Mexican winger and just kind of a foreign winger. But I think, you need some depth in that wing because it is going to come bite you later on down the season if you don't have that depth. And I think any team that doesn't have depth at this point is really going to suffer in the long haul. But you guys mentioned Piojo real quickly. How much blame does Piojo take in this game? And I've started seeing a lot of Fuera Piojo tweets already.
Oof. I saw them as soon as the second goal came from Cruz Azul.
I mean, Dylan, are people being a little bit too antsy? Did they had to bring up their saved drafts of hashtag Fuera Piojo for this one?
Yeah, I just think a tad antsy. I mean, look, we talked about this too. Whenever we're previewing the tournament coming up, and then obviously a little bit talking about the future with Piojo. I still don't see who steps in if Piojo leaves. I honestly don't. I think Piojo is still the right guy for the job, but I do think you kind of give him that time crunch of bringing in a title somewhere in the near future instead of down the line, like his contract extension is like in 3 years or something like that. You're going to want something, I think, within a year from Piojo. So I just don't think it's a good move for the club at the moment. But he's not our Sir Alex Ferguson, Ivan. So get off that.
Ah man, you know what? I'm still hopeful that he's gonna win like back-to-back league champions, and for some reason, the Queen of England's gonna want to knight him, and we're gonna be calling him Sir Miguel Piojo Herrera. So we'll still holding on to that dream until that dream is long gone. But you're right. Like you mentioned, Dylan, a bit antsy right there. And Christian, I think you can agree that
Of
maybe
course.
we should have cooled it down a little bit. I think I think some of the players deserve as much blame as Piojo does,
Oh
and
no,
I
of
think
course.
you can't blame Piojo for making the substitutions, right? You want him to kind of rest some of these key players too, because at that point you're like, okay, the game's kind of thrown away. Why are you going to risk some of the more kind of important players? Put on a little bit more of the bench. Just let them have the game out, see what they can manage of it.
Hmm.
But I think once you saw that third goal going, you knew what the outcome was going to be. So why risk some of your players?
No, of course. And the chat makes good points. This team lacks a lot of depth, and we really haven't seen quality replacements come in. Yes, I understand the crisis that we're in, and I know that we really can't I guess so and so afford set players, but you also got to think of this. The players that stayed, they were the ones kind of in a way crying for more minutes, or crying for more attention, or crying for a more important role. And now that it's kind of here, it's time to show up. It's time to prove why you've been crying for all these minutes and why you've been crying for all this attention. So I'm looking at you, Roger. I'm looking at you, Henry. I'm looking at you, Ibarguen. Granted, he hasn't played, but you know the sense I'm going with. It's time for players like these to step up and really demonstrate why they're on this team.
Yeah, definitely. No, I 100% agree. But that pretty much wraps up America versus Cruz Azul. And we'll just kind of leave it at that. Terrible game. Preseason, of course. We read some of it. We don't try to read too much into it. And now, fortunately, because of a result between America and Toluca, in which they drew 0-0, America is able to go into the semifinals of this Copa por Mexico, which is going to be played out this week. First game of that semifinal is going to be Tigres versus Cruz Azul. That's going to be tomorrow
It's gonna be a
on
good game.
Wednesday, and that should be an interesting one. But of course, we'll talk about Chivas versus America because I know that's what you guys came here for, the Clásico Nacional talk. We'll get to that right now. But first, we're going to update you guys on everything in the world of Las Águilas del América, which there isn't much of an update, but there is quite the transfer rumor that has surfaced that our good correspondent here, Christian, has said has about a 20% chance of actually coming to life. Now, but before we get there, there's kind of a backstory to this, Christian, because we're talking about Cecilio Dominguez possibly coming back to Las Águilas del América, and you're going to talk to us about the details and you're going to explain everything. But first, I do want to reiterate that América is still owed about 3.2 million, I believe, of the Cecilio Dominguez transfer. And if I'm not mistaken, Independiente is the team, right? Correct?
Correct.
They need to pay back America the money, correct?
Right.
So now I'm going to let you kind of talk in regards to what this rumor and all this is, and then we'll kind of jump back into that because there's kind of a certain little thing that I want to discuss in that sense.
Sure. So the term of the financial situation between the two clubs has been going on for like about a year or so. The news kind of came out last year that supposedly this team had a little bit of financial debts or whatever, and America wasn't going to get paid. So America was kind of nice enough, I guess, to kind of let them pay it, give them a little more time to pay it. Unfortunately, they didn't comply, so then they went to FIFA, and then FIFA ruled that they had to pay X amount of money for to America, which was around the total of 3.2 million. Plus, I think like an extra like late fees or something like that, right? So that's still up in the air. Of course, they're gonna appeal the case, because why did they want to pay the money? Because why not? Whatever. So that saga is gonna continue for a little bit. But talking about Cecilio Dominguez, though, this is a player that for right now he isn't really happy at the club due to, I guess, salary issues, and I guess just overall play style. He's not happy. He has mentioned to us. Well, not to us, but to.
I was like, you mentioned it to us.
I know him personally, so we kind of talk on WhatsApp once in a while. No.
Christian's a stunt double, if you guys haven't noticed.
He's mentioned to the Argentine press that he doesn't want to be there anymore, and he has mentioned about coming back to America, which is not the first time we hear this. We did hear this about a year ago as well when all this was going on. And when the first reports came out that players weren't getting paid. Another player that wasn't getting paid actually was Silvio Romero, ex-America player. I'm sure you guys all remember him. So yeah, these are all reports gearing back to a year ago, and they're kind of resurfacing now again. Is there truth to them? There is a little bit, but that's why I said there's maybe like a 15-20% chance happening. Don't get your hopes up, whether you like him or not. This could be an interesting factor to us, because I think I mentioned to Ivan off camera, this player, Cecilio Dominguez, is exactly like Andres Ibargüen. They're almost identical to me. When they're hot, and they contribute a lot. But when they're cold, they're frozen, and we don't want them on the pitch. We want them off the pitch. And this is about the time where we start saying bad words to our TV when they start doing their thing, and again dispossessed every single second of the match. So, but could it be the depth that we need? Possibly. Honestly, I can't speak too much about Cecilio because I haven't really watched him in this time in Argentina. So, something I would have to look upon if the rumor does get a little bit stronger, but that's where that is right now.
Interesting. Definitely interesting. Like you mentioned, like I mentioned to you, squad depth is very important, and he would add to that. But is he the right player for us? I mean, we'll talk about it in a sense, but quickly, yes or no? Cecilio, would you want him back, Dylan?
Only if he's going to chip Salivad next time. I'm only here for that.
He only comes back for one game out of the season.
Yeah, that's fine.
Gonna chip him. Okay.
I wouldn't mind that. Just just a simple chip and just the stare down as he runs towards the corner.
We find a way to add that to the intro.
yeah, definitely. But no, I'm not for it. I don't really want Cecilio back. I mean, it just felt like whenever you had him, he had his good run. Then an injury started to come a little bit. He like Christian said, if he goes cold, then he's gonna stay frozen for a little bit. And then I just felt like toward the end of his time with America, his attitude just changed, and he was ready to dip. He's gone, and now he's not happy. So I mean, what can you do?
Definitely, and I think Dylan put it perfectly. Injuries. Again, how many times have we gone into a buying proposition and came out kind of on the bad end because we keep putting our faith in these injury-prone players? And I get it. You play in a sport where you're liable to that. Every player is liable to being injured, but there's certain players that just are gonna frequently get injured, and Cecilio Dominguez kind of falls in that category. How many times was he on fire and then got a little bit of a knock in training, and then somehow that little knock turned into a month's time recovery? So I think Dylan's right. We don't need that right now. We need consistency in the squad as much as we need it on the pitch. And I think we need to kind of look away from this. And even if there's that 20% chance of him coming, I think they should get squashed and be turned into a 0% chance, because we don't need that type of player back in the club. While yes, he does add depth, I don't think he adds more to the talent pool. And that's what we really need to build up on. So I don't know if anything else you want to kind of talk about in regards to that, Cecilio, Christian.
No, I think you guys are hot on, or especially on the injury part. That's something we don't need right now. The last thing we need is injuries. For once we think we're gonna have a vast squad. Par Benedetti, who will be joining us kind of in early mid-September. So that's always a good news for us. So no, we don't need that right now. And I guess from what I've been seeing right now on Twitter, a lot of fans aren't really happy with Cecilio right now, whether it could be because of his actions or what he said, but they just don't think right now he's a good player for them. So I guess that alone just kind of tells me that maybe things aren't going well in Argentina. Maybe he wants a second chance in Mexico. I guess the rumors aren't true to that, but we'll see what happens though. But I guess if you really want my opinion on it, I think we pass on Cecilio.
Definitely. Well, what a week it's been for America, from being rumored to getting Willian from Chelsea to now falling into the stumbles of getting Cecilio Dominguez off Independiente. It's a topsy world, and if you guys want to know everything going on in the world of America, make sure you guys follow us over on Twitter at Eagle Eye Podcast. And our good friend right here, Christian, is going to get you guys updated in everything in regards to the transfer window. Like I mentioned, first thing he does before he even brushes his teeth in the morning is make sure that he knows what is going on in the world of the transfer rumors for you guys. So again, make sure you guys follow us over on Twitter for that sense. But we've gotten to the main point of today's podcast, the Clásico Nacional, what everyone came here to listen and to talk to. It's America versus Chivas, Chivas versus America. Chivas will be flying into La Ciudad de Mexico. They're going to be playing over in Seoul. And actually, before we get to that, I just want to quickly reiterate America's season for the upcoming, what would be called Apertura, now it's called Guardianes, is officially out. Christian did a great job in letting you guys know, kind of highlighting the big games. Before we even get to this America versus Chivas game, I quickly just kind of want to get your guys' 2 cents on the official announcement of the league name being changed to Guardianes 2020, and B, about America's roster, which we will go into more detail in another episode. But how are you guys feeling about America's start and end to the season? Because those are 2 completely different things. Go ahead, Christian.
Okay, well, first off, on the name, I think it was a great touch. Definitely respectable in every sense of the way to kind of dedicate this tournament to everyone who has been a part of this pandemic, and it was definitely a great touch. So I applaud Liga MX for doing it. Now, in terms of our schedule, it's really interesting to see this. We kind of start off the season with, I guess a little bit more on the easy average end side, if you will. No disrespect to any team who we play against in that time period, but the closing of the season is where we need to watch out, because we have some of the toughest game in the world. And for this, I guess I don't know the last time this happened. I think I should have looked this up. Would have been a cool stat to know. But for the first time, we have 3 Clásicos back to back to back, and that's definitely something interesting. And I don't think that plays favorites to us at all. I think that's probably one of the worst things that can happen to us this season. Having that amount of pressure for a whole month straight is definitely not good for us, especially with the form they're in right now. So hopefully by that time period, I hope we got our act together, because this closing of the season is going to be insanely hard.
Definitely. Dylan, your 2 cents on all this?
Yeah, just kind of the same way, just a big round of applause, to the frontline workers and this pandemic right now too. But I just think, like Christian said, that those 3 Clásicos in a row, I mean, that's just going to be killer week, killer 3 weeks. I mean, I wasn't expecting that whenever I saw the schedule. But really, I think it's that second half that's going to be tough. That's something whenever we talk about the season, Ivan, you always mention you play everybody once. You want to get as many points as possible as you go through the season. So I think that's going to be the part where you're going to have to buckle down and walk away with key results.
Yeah, no, definitely. Well, like I said, go more into detail not every single game in our preseason episode, but we'll get into details about the schedule and all that stuff and the double jornadas coming up. But that pivotal point in the season where you have 3 Clásicos in a row, there is no turning point after that. Like Dylan said, you got to buckle up and get ready for it. And no need to go to the barber for that time period, because I think a lot of us are going to be already ripping our hairs out. So that should already do wonders for us. But like I mentioned, we'll get a little bit more of that detailed information when we do talk and preview the upcoming season. But just kind of wanted get you guys' 2 cents on all of that. But now let's talk Chivas versus America in the semifinals of the Copa por Mexico. Now, I would say this in the most lighthearted way possible, but 2 teams that are coming into this game on 2 different spectrums. It's Chivas coming into this with a much better run of form. Of course, they have been playing at home. I don't know how much kind of that actually influences on their games, but now they're kind of in away territory and in a more familiar environment where America has been playing. So I don't know, again, what that might do for this game. But America coming into this one in such poor form in comparison to what Chivas is. How are we going into this one, Christian? How excited are you to see a Clásico Nacional so early in the season? But again, how skeptical are you of this America side walking into the semifinal?
I'm always side whenever we play Chivas, whether it be in preseason, in FIFA, in marbles, and dice. I don't care. When we play Chivas, it's always hype when we play Chivas. Don't get me wrong. In terms of the match and the gameplay, I think both teams come in about the same form, I guess. Both teams, I guess, below average in a sense. And it's crazy to think that we've been saying that because a few months ago we were not light years ahead of Chivas, but we were definitely a way better team than what they have to offer right now. And from the looks of their games, they really haven't improved that much. So to say that we're coming into the same form, it just means that we downgraded. And like I said earlier, I really hope we flip the switch because I know we have the better team. I know we have the better squad. It's just to get playing on that day is going to be the question, and hopefully Piojo can find out a way to kind of cope with this and kind of get them all playing together because it is a classico at the end, and we definitely don't want to lose to Chivas, especially in the semifinal game.
All right, Christian, you talked about flipping that switch, and we'll talk about exactly what we think America needs to do in order to flip that switch. But before we get there, let's talk about potential starting 11 and what we might see in this upcoming Clásico Nacional in the semifinals. First question, I'm going to throw it to you, Dylan. Does Oscar Jimenez get the nod, or do you stick with Ochoa in this game? Because there's been sets of rotating goalkeepers in this tournament.
Yeah, I just think it's kind of a little hard to say. I think whenever we first start, Ivan, me and you both expected Oscar Jimenez to start, but we did it. We saw Ochoa start, and then the second game comes, you saw Oscar start, and then you get Cruz Azul and Ochoa start. So I just feel like it's kind of a toss up a little bit. I just don't know. But I think if I had to guess, I have a gut feeling that Piojo sticks with Ochoa in net against Chivas this coming Thursday.
I have the same gut feeling. I just kind of wanted to get your kind of opinion in this because I know we kind of did have that back and forth at the beginning of this. We were for sure thought Jimenez was going to get the first game, but no, it was Memo. But now, Christian, I'm throwing it over to you. Now that we've kind of established the goalkeeper, I kind of want you to give us your 2 cents in regards to what you think Piojo is going to put out on the pitch, formation-wise, player-wise, and then I think we can go from there if we establish kind of a baseline starting 11.
Sure. So I think he's gonna go with the classic 4-4-2. Whatever. If you want to give my starting, or what I think my starting 11 should be, or what I think he's gonna put out. Me trying to be Piojo right now. He'll have Ochoa in net, probably Paul Aguilar, Bruno Valdez, Emmanuel Aguilera, and Luis Reyes. I know people are gonna say Aguilera, but that's probably his go-to guy right now, and that's probably he's not gonna change that. Hopefully he does. Hopefully we do see Cáceres play in that CB position, but a guy can dream. Then we're probably gonna have Richard Sanchez and also Gonzalez in the midfield. We'll have Giovanni on one side, Cordova on the other side, and then most likely Henry and Roger up top.
Henry and Roger, no Viñas then.
No Viñas, no.
And then who did you say the midfield was?
Also on Richard.
Also on Richard. Oh, unfortunately, we don't get to see the youngster start. That is a bummer. That is a bummer. Well, hopefully he gives us kind of a twist and puts in, like you said, Cáceres in the center back. He puts,
I hope it was like Leo on the wing, instead of Gio.
Yeah, and then hopefully we get to see Viñas. But like you said, a guy can dream. And
the guy can dream.
We can only dream so much, and Piojo will slap us with reality come Thursday, or probably tomorrow. We know that he likes to leak out his formations pretty early, so we'll have to wait and see. But so let's just kind of roll with that formation, right? And let's kind of roll with that because I think even if you put one player out of, take one player and put another, I don't think too much changes. I think America is kind of in this situation that no matter kind of who plays, you kind of have an understanding of what their role is and kind of what Piojo wants them to do. So knowing exactly the formation and kind of going off our hunches exactly who is going to play, how does America necessarily actually flip the switch on what happened against Cruz Azul and actually implement something to take a victory away against Chivas, Christian?
So I think you have to look at, I guess, Gio and Cordova to kind of be the guys to really, be the guy that creates the play, be the guy that puts the pass, be the guy that starts the play. They have to be the ones to control the game. And I think we saw a little bit of that in the first half against Cruz Azul. Cordova, I guess, in that kind of cam position was really doing wonders. And for me, I think that's something that we need. We need someone to to have that creative mind to kind of be the guy that said, all right, listen, give me the ball and I'll try to make something. And to have a player with that confidence, with that knowledge, is definitely key to us, because we definitely lack creativity against Cruz Azul in the second half. We lacked it against Pumas, and we lacked it against in the second half against Toluca. So we need a player like that, and if either or can step up and do that'll be great for us. Another player that I need to see more of is Richard Sanchez. For me, this past 3 games, he's been decent, not to the Rich Sanchez that we know he can be. So if he can go back to kind of like that form and kind of take precedence on the pitch, be that big guy on the field, in that midfield, I think we're in good shape, at least to start.
No, yeah, I agree, and I think we want to see an America not rely so heavily down on the wing play. And I think I mentioned this before. I think some of the best things that America has done in these games is when they go down the middle, and I think we need to explore that channel even
Mhm.
more. I think because a lot of teams already kind of assess to us playing out wide, they kind of structure their game in that sense where, okay, let's cover the wings and let's make sure they don't get so much play from that. But in doing so, they kind of leave the midfield a little bit more exposed and a little bit more spaces for us to run into.
Yeah, I think that's why I think we see Roger. Why I think Roger will be a good fit if said players can kind of create something in the middle. I feel like Roger's link-up play is second to none in the league, and when he gets on his form, he can really create something. And we know his potential. We know how he is. So definitely we can get something balling with a good combination, a good link-up. We could definitely see some chances occur.
Oh yeah, definitely. Dylan, how hopeful are you for this Thursday's game?
I'm pretty hopeful. I think, like you kind of mentioned earlier, Ivan, when you are the institution that you are as America, you're still expected to win, I think, every game that you play. And I think, people are going to look at this. Yeah, it's a preseason, it's Chivas. But I think people are still going to look at this as, coming in, wanting to come in and beat Chivas. And so I feel like that's going to, um, come into play a little bit for the team, especially whenever if some of these youngsters do get a chance to come in and play, because obviously I think they've been instilled with that Chivas is the rival. You want to go out and beat Chivas, and I feel like it's vice versa too. Chivas going to come in and America's the rival. We got to beat America. I feel like that's going to be the mentality still coming into this game, despite it being preseason. But I think preseason or not, anytime you get a chance to play Chivas and go out and try to beat them, that's going to be something that this team, and I think Piojo, is going to understand heading into this game still.
No, yeah, 100%, 100% agree with that. Anything to piggyback off of that, Christian?
No, I think Dylan hit a really good point. So just hopefully we get to see something more creative for as a part of our team.
Definitely. Now, if America plays to the T to the way that we've said them that they can, how do you guys expect Chivas to react?
Well, for me, I think Chivas is gonna play their game. They're very aggressive. They're very fast paced, and I think that's something Tena has instilled in them. While I don't think they have kind of the players to execute what I think he wants. There's still a couple players that are dangerous. You talk, Alexis Vega, you talk Beltran. Those are players who can really change the game for you in a switch. So them being on your team is always a threat, right? So I think America has to really find a way to kind of contain whenever they do get under fast pace, kind of slow them down a little bit, because when they get slowed down, they're not really as effective anymore. And I think that's when we can play our game a little bit more, kind of control the ball, try to create something. And I think with the Lincoln play in our favor, I think we can surpass them and we can be better than them on the pitch.
Definitely. So I think we're very hopeful for this Thursday, which this game is going to be broadcasted obviously through TUDN at 7 p.m. Pacific time. That is 10 Eastern and 9 Central time. So make sure you guys are glued to your TV on Thursdays. If you guys, for whatever reason, cannot watch that game, head over to Twitter and we will keep you guys up to date minute by minute on everything that is happening in the Clásico Nacional. Hopeful for this game that America flips the switch. Hopeful for America to go out and play a good game. And I think we'll read into it as much as we need to, because I think 1 week away from the start of the season, I think you really need to be, okay, I'm ready to go mode. And we'll wait to see if America actually showcases that or not. One last question before we wrap all of this up. It's a Clásico. We know what this means for a lot of the players, especially for the players that understand this more than others. How riled up, or how much do you think that is actually going to be an influence in this match? Go ahead, Dylan.
Just like I said, some of these players are coming in with that mindset still, with you got to go out and beat Chivas. Either way, I think it's just going to be a pretty much all out, not necessarily all out game, but you're going to see a little bit more from these players because they're going to be playing with a little bit of passion. They're going to be playing with intensity, especially playing, one of your rivals, pretty close to home, even though it's not necessarily a true home game because they're not in the Azteca. But I feel like that's how these players are going to feel, especially some of these youngsters, like I mentioned, who have instilled probably in their minds that, it's Chivas. We got to go all out. We got to beat these guys. These are rivals. We don't like them. So, it's just going to be, we're just going to go out and really play with that intensity, I believe. And, maybe we'll see something from this team that we've seen, against the Toluca game, just trying to grasp that form in a sense, but still trying to make strides forward as we try to close out this preseason heading into the real season.
Oh yeah, definitely. Christian?
I think that these players need to come in fueled. They need to come in with, this is a final essentially. I think they need to give it all out because they need to prove that what happened against Cruz Azul was, I guess, a bad day in the office in the sense. They need to come out and prove that, they are the team that, the fans can rely on to bring them a championship this year. They need to be the team that we know that they can be. So Thursday is definitely the start of it because we don't want, a same, repetition of what happened against Cruz Azul. So if we want a good start to the season, I guess in a way, it starts now because this is one or done. You lose, you're out. This is it. So I think there's definitely a huge stepping stone for us in terms of the start of the season.
And I kind of do agree with Christian too in terms of this is potentially your last preseason game. If you lose this game, you don't necessarily have another preseason game until you start the season against Pachuca. Correct me if I'm wrong, anybody. But you're not going to have another chance really to gel and to put what you've been working on in training on the pitch against another team. And until then, and then what if that team comes out and plays like it kind of has been a little bit against Pachuca, which you don't want to. You want to start off the season on the right foot with 3 points, but it's just kind of. I just feel like it's kind of has to be that mentality too. Like if you lose, this is your last preseason game. You probably won't get another one.
You're right. You put it perfectly, and I think that has to be in the back of these players' minds. And like I mentioned at the at the beginning of everything, the more games you get under your belt, the better off you're going to be as a team, as a player, right? The more you can get minutes on the field, the better prepared you're going to be at the start of the season. So I think the players need to instill that kind of mindset. And of course, you already know what you're playing for, not just another preseason game or another opportunity to showcase to the coach, but you get to play and represent the crest, the club, and kind of your pride as a player and as a fan base. You know that you're holding a lot on the line, even in a preseason game, because like we mentioned, a game against Chivas is always going to be a game against Chivas. Whenever you play against your most biggest and bitter rivals, there's no such thing as a friendly. So It's going to be an interesting game, that's for sure. But you guys can catch all of that on Thursday at TUDN and also over on Twitter. If you guys haven't followed us already, make sure you guys do so. We're going to wrap it up right here because we don't want to take your time any further, but I do want to give a shout out to every single one of you guys who watched us, whether it was YouTube or Twitter. Thank you so much for joining us. Louis, thank you to Chris. Thank you to Kevin. Our good friend Gary was here. What is going on, Gary? Hi. Antonio shouting us out all the way from Illinois. Take care, my friend. I love Chicago. Anyone, Chicken Little, everyone and anyone who came out here, thank you so much for everything. And, we really gratefully appreciate you guys coming out here. And for every single one of you guys listening right now on Spotify, iTunes, iHeartRadio, wherever it is that you're listening, again, thank you so much for everything. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Christian and Dylan, again, thank you so much for coming out. I know it's been quite the week for us outside of the podcast. I know it's been quite a bit of a drag, but I know that we're here. We're happy. And again, thank you so much for coming out, Christian and Dylan.
Wear your mask, guys. Please wear your mask.
Always.
Be safe.
Definitely. Alrighty, guys. We'll catch you guys very soon. Next week, we'll be talking all things America in regards to the upcoming Guardianes 2020, and we'll guys give you guys a preview on that. We're going to try to get word whether or not the Liga MX Femenil is actually going to get started on that, because I know I've heard rumors that it might have been pushed back. But we'll get you guys all caught up to that and everything more next week. Again, make sure you guys follow us on Twitter for this Clásico Nacional. And if America makes it into the final, we hope to get you guys more content in that sense as well. Take care. As Christian said, wear a mask. Like Dylan said, take care. Be careful out there. As always, take care. Until next time, Arriba la América.
Ladies and gentlemen, this was another production of the Eagle Eye Podcast, the #1 source for all things Club America in English. Make sure to follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Eagle Eye Podcast and get all the latest news and coverage. And subscribe to our podcast wherever it is you may listen.